our volunteers contribute around 10,000 unpaid hours of volunteering time over the year, which for me is very humbling. Hi, my name is Rachel and I'm the volunteer manager here at Bear Cottage. My role involves training, recruiting and supporting those around 130 volunteers here at the cottage.
I've been a volunteer here for almost a year and I just have to say it's one of the best things I've ever done in my life.
I come every week that I can. On Saturdays is a day that works for me, and work in Bear Cottage.
I'm on a Friday morning, yes, and the same depends on how many children are here and what they want us to do.
Unlike paid staff, volunteers give their time over and above their other commitments, and that always astounds me.
There are obviously very different patients every time we come, so our interaction with those children varies from day to day. We can be singing or playing cards with some of the children, or taking them downstairs to the video room and sitting with them. And other times it can be just sitting with mothers or fathers in the lounge room and just hearing what they have to say, or even just how their day's going is a significant thing that we can contribute.
I think one of the first times I'd worked with you and I heard you reading stories.
Okay.
And I came in, I was helping with the little one, little sister in the garden, and I came in and you were reading and I just looked at you and said, "You were a teacher, weren't you?" And you said, oh. How can you tell? Because it was such a vibrant story reading.
Volunteers have the time to sit and be present with a child or a family member. They don't have to be doing something.
Oh, well, I know you told about one of the boys who you were reading him a story that you thought might have been too grown up.
I was reading a Paul Jennings book, which is a quirky story, and suddenly I felt something on my knee, and I looked down and he's put his knee on top of mine, and I was just like, wow, that was a very powerful moment.
I think it's hard to measure the impact that our volunteers can have, because it's often the most unlikely thing that makes a huge difference to a family's experience at Bear Cottage. It's just that essence of humanity and kindness, and that's what really shapes a family's experience here. We do make really meaningful connections here that can't leave Bear Cottage, and that means that even when our volunteers would like to continue on with a connection or a friendship that they've made, that it has to end and that it can only be brief and often time limited, which is a challenge for all of us when we have a relationship that's had a big impact on us.
So one of the ways that we support our volunteers is through our child reflection sessions, which we call Soul Time. And these are opportunities for volunteers to come together for a couple of hours at a time to reflect on children that have died at Bear Cottage and to share those stories and memories about that child and their family.
One of the highlights of being at Bear Cottage was definitely being here on Christmas Day and helping set up the outside deck. We had a very young patient who was towards the end of her life, and her extended family had all come to visit. We started singing Old MacDonald and everybody just joined in with the most rousing renditions, and it was just a most extraordinary musical session. I think the mother was just extremely thrilled. That was a real send-off for her daughter with all their family sitting around and enjoying it as well.
Well, for me, one of the biggest rewards is when the family will have a word with you. And the other day I had a home visit a couple of times to this family,
Right.
and they were here for respite, and it was at lunchtime and I was just walking around the dining room table, and then the mum was heading towards me, and then I said something, and it was appropriate at the time, like, "Would you like a hug?" And she's like, "Oh yes, please." And then I gave her a hug, and as I was giving her a hug, she whispered in my ear, "Thank you so much for your support. It was just a lifesaver." And I've just crumbled and thought, I said, "That's my pleasure."